So car manufacturers are saying that newer vehicles transmission fluid is lifetime. But which lifetime are they actually talking about? So on some automatic transmission, you're going to see a little sticker that will be written warning lifetime oil. So what they are saying is the transmission fluid is a lifetime fluid and never needs to be changed. But in reality, transmission fluid degrades over time due to heat, friction, contamination, oxidation. So even if they call it a lifetime fluid, what they actually mean by that is the fluid is lifetime for the expected service life of that transmission or for the duration of the warranty on that vehicle from when it was brand new. So people misunderstand that information and think the automatic transmission fluid should never be changed, and that is very, very wrong, because in the long run it's going to damage that transmission. But basically, transmissions should be serviced. Automatic transmission should be serviced between 40,000 miles to 60,000 miles. So imagine you bought the vehicle used, probably you bought it at 40,000, 60,000, or 70,000 miles. That is still a good mileage. But at that particular mileage, the transmission fluid is supposed to have been changed. So another misconception about automatic transmission is that dark transmission fluid automatically means that the transmission is bad. Now that is not necessary, because the transmission fluid is dark doesn't mean the transmission itself is bad, because after a while of using the automatic transmission, it is normal for the oil to degrade and change color. So you need to consider things like the smell of the transmission fluid. If it's smelling burnt, you need to confirm if there's contamination in the fluid, like metal particles. Those are things you need to consider to actually tag that transmission as being bad, not because the transmission fluid is dark. The dark transmission fluid is only telling you that it has worked its duration and needs to be replaced or changed. Now, another misconception out there is that changing the fluid will destroy a perfectly good transmission. That has been happening for a while, but usually it is not about the fluid change, it is how the fluid change was done. Because now there's difference between a fluid flush and a fluid change. Now, if you do a fluid flush, it's possible you might have issues with the transmission, especially when the transmission is a high mileage transmission. When the vehicle has run for over 100,000 miles, you shouldn't do a fluid flush, you should do a fluid change. A fluid flush involves a process whereby sometimes you have to apply pressure to push out all the fluid in the transmission, whereas a fluid flush, a fluid change, just involves draining the fluid and simply putting back a fresh new one, and that's all. So why the transmission might fail when you do a fluid flush is because over time the transmission has been building up what we call debris or some sediments in the transmission itself. That's why sometimes in some transmission you have a small magnet in the oil pan to catch some of those sediments. So if you do a fluid flush, that pressure you're applying, you are going to dislodge some of those sediments, some of those debris that have caked together. So you are going to dislodge them by doing that fluid flush, by applying those pressures in those areas. So by the time you now pour a fresh new transmission fluid into that transmission, those sediments, those particles are going to go and block some passages for fluid flow. And with that, you might notice that after changing your fluid, you're having issues with the transmission, because the transmission will misbehave because fluid is not getting to some areas the way it's supposed to get to, and you're going to have issues with the transmission. So that's why if the transmission is over 100,000 miles, just do a simple fluid change and don't wait till the transmission is completely very, very dark. Once you notice the transmission fluid is getting a little bit dark, that is deviating from its regular pink to a little bit dark pink, so it's time for you to just change it, and that will happen over maybe 40,000 miles to 60,000 miles. So just change the fluid instead of waiting for it to be completely black, because it is at that stage when it is completely black that it develops more sediment, more debris in the transmission. So if you do an early oil change, you're not going to have that. You're going to be at the lower risk of having a lot of sediment and debris in the automatic transmission. Now, another thing is all automatic transmission fluids are not the same. If the transmission is meant to use WS fluid, use WS. If it's meant to use T4, use T4. If the transmission is a CVT, use a CVT fluid recommended by the manufacturer, because if you deviate, definitely over time you are going to have issues with the transmission shifting.